So here we are then in the Fishery Museum at Lower Itchen Fishery in Southampton. What better place to tie a few flies? Now in the vise I've got a size 16 barbless dry fly hook, and I'm going to tie a pattern suggested to me by Alex Jardine, which is called the Grayling Witch. So first things first, on goes my tying thread, which is a gel spun polymer. It's olive, very, very fine, and the idea of using this style of thread on a dry is that it provides very little bulk. So that goes on, just a layer of thread. Now, if you grayling fish in the winter, you almost certainly have used a red tag. It's a fantastic nymph pattern with a tungsten bead tied onto it, gets down really fast and finds the grayling at the bottom. So what we do with this fly is we use this material. This is a Glow Bright thread, and it's Glow Bright number 3, which is obviously scarlet, and I'm just going to tie that onto the top of the hook and form a little red tag. So just shorten the thread down, pull that along the shank of the hook and tie it in right to the end. Just going to tidy up the two ends to make sure it's neat and tidy. Give that a bit of a trim. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim off this Glow Bright tag so there's a nice little bit poking out of the end, like so. Just going to make sure that that's all nice and neat and tidy. Now the next part of the fly is a hackle. So this is a Grizzle Hackle, black and white, very distinctive. And with these you've got two ways you can tie them in. You can either tie them in barb first, and this is the barb end, or you can do it from the other end. With this particular piece of hackle, for this fly, I'm going to tie it in barb end first. And to do that, we just take our fingers, brush the fibres forward to give us a little bit of room to get the tying thread in. Pop it against the fly like so, and just fix it down right in tight to that red tag, so right at the very end of the fly, and then I can just trim off that part of the hackle to give me room to get in with the next element. Now the next material is Peacock. Gorgeous coloured material, produces fantastic bodies on these dry flies. And I'm just going to bind that into the shank of the hook and move my bobbin out of the way. And then the idea is that you wind this in an anti-clockwise direction with really soft hands, because it's such a delicate material, up the shank of the hook. You don't want to put any pressure on this at all, because if you do, it tends to break. It's very frustrating, and you have to start again. But you can see as I'm winding this, the kind of little fronds of feather are pinging off the quill itself, the actual peacock quill, and forming basically a fluffy looking body. So just hold that up and bind over the top with my tying thread, just to secure it to the shank of the hook, and then I can just break that off. Okay, just a couple of turns to secure it. Now, I can now take my Grizzle Hackle and I can wind that up again towards the eye of the hook, and you can see again it splays out as you wind it up. Open turns for this, so you don't need it all touching. You're just trying to create something that pings off the main body of the hook. That'll do us again, and again just over goes the tying thread just to secure that to the upper part of the hook. Take my scissors, just open the blades a little and push in to just trim that off like so. If I brush that back, you can see how that's producing a lovely kind of spiky hackle which will sit in the water. Lovely. I'm just going to put one more thing in, which is just a tiny little bit of dubbing, just to tidy up the front end of the hook. This is just an olive dubbing attached to my thread, a really small piece. Nice and fine, ever such a thin dubbing rope. We don't want very much of this material at all, and it's really just to keep things neat and tidy at the head of the fly. So that's my dubbing in, and now I'm going to whip finish. Just one more for security, and trim off. Now there's one more job to do here, which is to do with presentation. If I brush that hackle forward, you can see how attractive it is. But if you look at the bottom here, that's ever so spiky and quite buoyant actually. This fly will float quite high in the water. Now you can fish it just like that, but what I like to do is just take my scissors and give it a bit of a haircut. So just trim off those bottom hackles from that grizzle. And what that will then do is it will make that fly sit a little bit lower in the water. Just kind of make a lower dimple in the surface film of the water, if you like. And I think that does make a little bit of a difference. So just pop that out with the vise and show you the finished product. That is my version of Alex Jardine's Grayling Witch.